You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of a short story through to line edits of a full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7, and I could go on because we are everywhere. We're everywhere. And joining me today as my co-host, as he usually does on Thursdays, is the President and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom, George Landreth. George, welcome to the Conservative Commandos.
It's exactly where I want to be right now.
Great to have you with us, George. So, George, we have got nothing to talk about this week, right? We could take off. I mean, there's never anything to talk about.
It is slow news week after slow news week. I do not know what we will talk about. It's really depressing sometimes.
Maybe we should start talking about how the Democrats are being obstructionists on Capitol Hill, or they're trying to be. When Barack Obama was sworn into office, he had 7 of his cabinet members already confirmed. When Donald Trump was sworn in, he only had 2. And we've seen these shenanigans on Capitol Hill coming from the left, and they are going to do everything and anything they can, George, to slow down the process, to demoralize America, to hurt Donald Trump, but slowly but surely we're getting our cabinet members picked. And of course, this week we saw Jeff Sessions. He got approval, and also Betsy DeVos.
Absolutely. You know what's interesting about this whole thing is I've heard the left argue that, well, the reason why we're not passing them through as quickly is because they haven't finished all their paperwork. And it makes it sound like these people have been appointed and then they're sitting around at home relaxing and not bothering to submit the paperwork that's necessary. And that, again, is more of the liberal lies that you get. So they are appointed. They get a long list of questions they're asked to answer. They submit those and answer those. Then a week later, the Democrats come up with another 200 pages of questions they want to ask them. They file those, answer them, fill them out, send it in. And they Democrats keep doing that. And then they have the nerve to say they haven't answered their questions. And you can say, well, isn't that what the Republicans did? And the answer is no. The Republicans did not do that with Barack Obama's. They submitted their questions. They may have had one round of follow-up, and that was about it. And they were able to, and they didn't keep sending them 500 new pages of questions with, subparts and so forth. If they had a single follow-up, like if a question they didn't like the answer to or didn't feel it was fully responsive, they might write one follow-up question, not 200 more pages. So this is the game that they're playing up there, and you can be guaranteed they're not being honest about this stuff. And so I guess they've just decided it doesn't matter, or maybe their base is so intent on this that this is the way it's to be played. But I do think they've worked very, very hard to misrepresent things and lie in an attempt to tell Americans it's not us being partisan, it's not us playing games, it's them. They're the ones that aren't ready. They don't really want to be confirmed because they haven't even turned in their paperwork yet. And, again, these people are lying sacks of rotting fecal matter. I know that sounds a little harsh, but it's just true, and I'm tired of it. I've been watching politics. I've been involved in politics for decades now. It's gotten so bad, and they are just it's beyond the pale. And if they want to stand up and say, listen, we are just going to drag our feet and be difficult, that's fine. Then be honest and say you're going to do that. But stop the lies and stop pretending that it's someone else's fault. That's what they do. They shift, they deflect, they dissemble, and quite frankly, they lie. And there was years ago where I wouldn't use that word. I remember when I started out in this business, it was if you put the word lie in an op-ed article, it would be flagged immediately. The The publication would not publish it because that was considered just over the top. But I don't know what else to call it. These
lie
people
is one of the favorite words from the left.
Pardon me?
I remember George Bush, how George Bush lied and Americans died. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
They ought to like that word lie. They love to use that word.
So, and I use the word as it's intended. Being wrong about something does not constitute a lie. Yes. If someone asks me what the weather's outside, and I was out an hour ago, and it was nice when I walked in, and I happened to be in an office with the windows blinds pulled, and they say, "What's the weather like?" I say, "Oh, it's nice." And then they can go back and say, "It's raining right now, George." Well, that makes me incorrect. It doesn't make me a liar, unless I told them that with the intent to deceive them. But what I'm telling you is the Democrats regularly say things they know to be false, and that they say with the express purpose of deceiving people who are listening to them. That's a lie. Look it up in the dictionary if you don't believe me. It requires a false statement combined with an intent to deceive. And that's how I'm using the term. They use the term if Bush made an error or was incorrect, it turned out that he was wrong, that was a lie. But that's not the actual definition. It's not being incorrect. It's the intent to deceive. That's the operative part that's very important. And absolutely Chuck Schumer and most of the people that he's with have that intent to deceive. Mm-hmm. Therefore, they're liars.
And another problem we have, George, is we don't have a mainstream media that'll call them out when they lie. The mainstream
they back them up.
media
That's the other
is
thing
their
that used
allies, and they will back their lies.
Absolutely. They will back them up. They'll hide for them. They'll vouch for them. You have things like Snopes. I don't even believe Snopes anymore. Anybody who cites to me Snopes, I laugh in their face, because I've seen a couple of things where Snopes will essentially cover for the left on something, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, well that's not substantiated." Well, when you make an assertion, you need to have your facts. If all they can say is we can't substantiate what they're saying, that's not what they do if a Republican says something and they can't substantiate it, they call it a lie. And they have their, 5 Pinocchios or whatever, different fact checkers have. When a Democrat says something that cannot be substantiated, they just say, "Oh yeah, we couldn't substantiate that, so we don't really know what to make of it." It's a double standard, and I'm tired of it. The fact checkers are some of the biggest liars in the business, because part of their shtick is, "Oh, we're fact checkers. We're not really biased. We're just here to tell you the facts." And then when you dig deeper, what you find is they're not telling the truth. So when someone gives me a fact checker said blah, 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 I'm like, yeah. I don't believe you people anymore. I'm going to do my own fact checking because I know how to fact check. And I'm not going to listen to some pointy-headed liberal who's willing to lie through his soft teeth to tell me what the truth is. And that's what we've come to. But I will say it was fun. I think that the teachers' unions are absolutely devastated that Mrs. DeVos was that she was approved and is now a Secretary of Education. They're devastated.
Well, I was glad to see her get in, and I'm waiting for Scott Pruitt to get in also.
Exactly. And I'm very pleased. I mean, we'll have more to talk about, obviously, with later in the show about Senator Sessions. But Betsy DeVos, to hear them talk, they acted like she was A, an idiot, and B, just completely anti-education, which, of course, is not true.
Hey, George, let's talk a little bit about Betsy DeVos when we come back from the break.
Absolutely. We got the break.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth, President and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom, and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Today's show is being brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. George and I will be right back.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamb-Menier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Menier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We, the people, never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, "All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent." Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with George Landreth, President and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom, and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcast of our shows, please go to our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or at 8 a.m., you can log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 11 p.m., log on to highplanestalkradio.com. Or you could hear this show and all the shows that are part of the Conservative Commandos radio network here at WNJC 1360 from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199, 832-999-1199. You don't need an app. You don't need to download anything. You don't even need a radio or a computer. Just a telephone and this number. 832-999-1199. George, before we get into more discussion about Betsy DeVos, I wanted to make this announcement. You know, we have these wacky people on the left who are going to court to stop President Trump's travel ban. And I wanted to remind our people, our listeners out there, that you can take a part in protecting our country. And this is how we can bypass these liberal judges. If you know of or see of any illegal aliens, please call Customs and Immigration Enforcement at 1-866-347-2423. They'll need to know names, locations, either places of work or residences, and any other information that you can provide. If these judges aren't going to protect us, we need to protect ourselves. We need to get these bad guys out of this country. And I think as a result of Donald Trump being elected president, he is going to let ICE do its job. So again, if you know of anybody that is here in this country illegally, call Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, at 1-866-347-2423. Or also you can visit ICE's website. It's www.ice.gov for more information. So, George, getting back to Betsy DeVos, one of the things that I wanted to shake my head about was Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, two Republicans, voting against her. George, this is why we need to be forever vigilant, because there's even people who are supposed to be on our side who aren't. And I think a large part of the reason they voted against her is those two senators were two of the biggest recipients of teacher union money.
Yep. I mean, it's interesting. The teachers' unions, of course, were the ones that putting up the biggest fight against her. And when they do this, they always pretend that they're there for the children. I saw this when I was on a public school board. When there was something that would put money in their pockets versus, say, put money in the classroom or make sure that students had, a better education, they were always for more money for them, which is fine. I got that. I expect people to pursue their interests. What I got really tired of was essentially the way they lied about it, which was they never said, listen, we are here to represent the teachers' interests, and we want to make sure teachers maximize their interests. They always said, we're here for the children. And, and so everyone acts like, oh, well, we got to listen to them because they're for the children. And so, this is the same thing. These people who were fighting Betsy DeVos acted as if their primary concern was quality education for children. And if that was their primary concern, then we'd have better schools in Michigan, places like Detroit, in D.C., go across the inner cities everywhere, because that's the place where the teachers' union gets its way all the time. That's the place where that ideology is always in charge. And yet those are the places the schools are the worst. So I don't want to hear about how they're for the children, because they're not. They are there for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's fine. But at least be honest about it and just say, hey, listen, we're here to make sure we make as much money as possible. If we could make $1 million a year, we'd take it. And that's fine. Then we go, okay, I understand. You're a special interest and you're there. But everyone wants to pretend that they're not a special interest. So these are the people who are waxing indignant. And these are the two senators in the GOP that somehow couldn't bring themselves to vote for her and had to vote no because they're in their hip pocket, apparently. I think that's unfortunate. If you look at all the sorts of reforms that we need to see happen, Betsy DeVos has been an advocate of those reforms. And quite frankly, personally, with her own resources, helping make some of those reforms more likely and take place around the country. So she hasn't just been a talker, she's been a doer. She's put her money where her mouth is. I have to respect that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. George, another thing that Vote pointed out is how important elections are. Just think if somebody like Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania or Ron Johnson in Wisconsin had lost their election. If one more Republican would have lost, another Democrat would have won, Betsy would have not been elected. She would have not got confirmation. That's how.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a good point. It's important up and down the, one of the things that I've learned in my years in kind of being politically active is whether it's a school board position or a county position or a congressional position or a statewide position or the President of the United States, they all matter. And it's unfortunate when we think, oh, yeah, the only thing that matters is the presidential election, and we focus solely on that. We've had some presidential election successes in the past, and unfortunately sometimes they didn't have the help they needed or the support they needed, and so they ended up not getting as much done as we could have seen them get done if we had been more careful to make sure they have all the support they need in Congress, at the state level. If, for example, if we want to see happen some of the reforms we want to see happen, then we need to have good conservative governors and legislatures. If we want to see localities do more in education, we need to have strong localities who are clamoring for that and asking for that, not saying, "Oh no, we need more stuff out of Washington." And so it's a big picture, and we've got to be willing to put the time into it. So I totally agree,
George, and that's why we are here.
Absolutely.
All right, George, let's go to another break. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth, President and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom, and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7, and a whole bunch of others. Don't go away. George and I will be right back with more news and commentary.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with George Landreth, President and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom, and yours truly, Rick Trader, the benevolent yet lovable dictator of the Conservative Commandos. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, please always check out our websites, ccrshow.com or CCRS Network, or at 8 a.m. you can log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 11 p.m. log on to highplanestalkradio.com, or you could hear our show any time of the day from your phone by calling 832-999-1199. Now, I want to repeat this announcement. If you want to get by these liberal judges who are fighting Donald Trump on his travel ban, the way you can do it is if you know of anyone here illegally or find of anyone here that is here illegally, call Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, at 1-866-347-2423. They'll need to know information like names, locations, either a workplace or a residence, and any other specific information that you can provide, or visit their website at www.ice.gov for more information. But this is how we can protect ourselves, protect our families, protect our communities, and protect our country from these liberal judges ignoring the Constitution and letting these people stay here illegally. So that's something. George, I know you wanted to talk some more about Betsy DeVos.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it'd be funny to put out some of the things that people tweeted about her on the left. This is one of my favorites from Richard Lawson. Wrote, voucher programs will lead to more suicides. Betsy DeVos's policies will kill children. This is not an exaggeration in any sense. Period. Okay?
I don't know what to say after hearing that.
School choice kills people. I'd never heard that before. I wonder if Snopes might do a check on that one. I mean, these people are completely unhinged. Or how about this for stupid? This is Jill Stein, former presidential candidate.
Right.
She writes, why would we have a tie on such an egregious nominee? Then she answers her own stupid question. Because Democrats serve corporate interests. Okay, now, first of all, every Democrat voted against her. So I'm not sure. She doesn't seem to understand that there aren't enough Democrats to actually stop the nomination. But again, this is what it means to be a liberal. You can't do math, and you're dumb as grass. That's what it means. This is the kind of crap that, school choice causes suicides, and, a minority of Democrats, she can't understand how that
George, that aggravates
beyond me
so much, because if we made some sort of a statement, I say we, conservatives, people on the right, and this has happened to me on Facebook. I'll make a statement on Facebook, and they'll chime in and they say, where's your proof? Where's your proof? Well, when they make these idiotic statements like that, where is their proof? I really think that school vouchers is the way to go with education in this country. Number one, if this is a free society we live in, why shouldn't parents have the right to send their child to whatever school that they would like? A school where they feel their child would get the best education. That's number one. Number two, it costs so much to build schools today. By allowing for vouchers, allowing for children to go to religious schools, Catholic schools, homeschooling or whatever, that frees up classroom space, eliminating the need for new building. So I think it's a win-win all the way around.
Couldn't agree more. But of course, that's because you're indifferent to the increased suicides that would cause.
Oh, that's because I'm a heartless person, a heartless conservative.
Yeah, you are heartless. I can't believe it. You don't even care about suicide. This is the kind of crazy talk. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not going to take you seriously if you say idiotic, stupid things on a regular basis, and that's what the left does. It's just the most insanely idiotic things. I mean, even just how they talk about the travel ban. They call it a travel ban. One, it's a travel pause. They keep saying that it discriminates against people based on religion. It does not. And even the judges on the left are absolutely, completely stupid. I mean, if you go to law school, you learn certain things. The judges don't actually get to ask the president, now, what did you think about when you made this ruling? What sources did you use? Because their job is not to reevaluate the decision and determine if they had been in the Oval Office instead of him, what decision they would have made. Their only question is, when he made the decision he made, did he violate the Constitution or did he violate law? That's the only question. Not why did you make the decision you made. And yet most of the questions they asked had nothing to do with whether or not, in other words, the answer was immaterial to the question I just posed. What they were doing was asking him, so can you fill me on how you got to where you got? Because I want to make sure I understand that, because I want to know if I agree with you. And it's like, that's not the standard. It doesn't matter if you agree with him. What matters is, did he violate the Constitution? And no, he did not. or did he violate any law? And the answer is no, he did not. In fact, he acted completely in concert with and in accordance with the relevant laws in this case. So we are surrounded by people who talk crazy, stupid talk. I've had people tell me a gazillion times, this is unconstitutional. I say, what is it unconstitutional about? And they say, well, religious test. I said, read the religious test clause. It says that you cannot make it a requirement to hold public office to take to have a religious test for public office. So where in his executive order has he said anything about to hold an office in the United States that you must have a religious test? Where is it? And is it? And then of course, it doesn't mention religion anyhow, so that's the other problem here. But it is stupidity layered upon stupidity. It is just, if it were a house, it would crumble. But and yet these people want us to take them seriously. They want us to pretend that their opinions matter. Their opinions are based on flimsy reasoning, pathetic reasoning, false just assumptions and facts. They think that the Constitution just means that things need to be fair in the world in the way they describe it. So if it doesn't seem right to them, then it's obviously unconstitutional. That's not how the document works. So I'm going to go crazy here, but I know that we probably run up on a break. If we've got time, I'll real quick mention who our guests are, but we may not have time.
Let's do that in the next segment, George.
Okay.
We only got about a half minute to go in this segment.
Well, I will say we've got two great guests, and they're going to be a lot of fun. So when people come back, we will tell you about what we're going to talk about, but they'll be a lot of fun.
There you go. That's a tease. That is a tease. All right, we will go to break now. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with the American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. On the other side is George clued you in on. We'll clue you in on who our guests are going to be. Be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We, the people, never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth, President and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom, and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcast of our shows, please go to our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or at 8 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 11 p.m., highplanestalkradio.com, or you can hear our show from your phone by calling 832-999-1199. George, we got a couple of very interesting guests today.
We do. At the top of the hour, we're going to have James Hershen. He is he's a New York Times bestselling author. He's a commentator. He's a media analyst. He's a law professor, but don't hold that against him. He basically is a critic of and a commentator on the entertainment industry, media psychology, cultural matters, and he's been on Fox News, all the different shows there, whether it's O'Reilly or Fox and Friends or with Neil Cavuto. He's even been on Hardball with Chris Matthews. But he is somebody who talks about what's going on in the popular media culture. And we're going to talk about Hollywood and how they've become completely unhinged. I think it'll be a really interesting conversation as he kind of walks us through what they're doing and what impact it's having. Obviously, electorally, it didn't make much difference. They did a lot of talking and didn't get anything out of it. But it is having an impact. Fortunately, the impact it's having is on Hollywood. And they are... it would seem suffering as a result of their idiocy. But so I think that'll be a lot of fun to have that conversation with him. And then at the bottom of the hour at 4:30, we've got Jennifer Burke. She's the co-founder and editor-in-chief at Politistick. It's a very popular, so the top 15 conservative websites in the country. She attended and was instrumental in the early Tea Party movement. She's... a teacher, which is interesting because not all the teachers are the lunatics that opposed Betsy DeVos. She's a good, solid one. Anyhow, she's going to talk with us about Senator Cory Booker and some of the insanely idiotic things that he's been doing. And that's where we'll spend a fair amount of time talking about Sessions and his confirmation hearings. I know Jeff Sessions, and the characters I've heard of him, if you didn't tell me they were talking about him, I would have never guessed it. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's bizarre. So anyhow, it'll be a good conversation, and I think a lot of fun.
Indeed, indeed. And, you know, Cory Booker, I call him the Barack Obama clone. If you like Barack Obama, you'll love Cory Booker. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. He's like I would say in some respects he's a little smoother than Brock, because Brock has this sort of seething superiority and seething contempt for people, and I think Cory Booker, I think he has it, but he hides it a little better. He comes across.
He's a media whore. He would rather be on the Arsenio Hall show than on Capitol Hill, and he's only been speaking out recently because he's lighting himself up to run in 2020.
Yep. Well, absolutely, and but I agree with your assessment of him. I would say that he is a more likable Barack Obama. I know people say, "Oh, Barack Obama is really well liked."
That in and of itself, George, is dangerous.
I agree.
The devil isn't going to come to you looking like a snake.
Yeah, and he's not going to have a pitchfork in his hand, and he's not going to be red. Right. No, I agree. I consider him to be a fairly dangerous, and I don't mean dangerous like I'm afraid of him. I mean dangerous like he is. He would represent a very unhealthy direction for America. And if you are frustrated with the lack of opportunity that we see in America, he would do nothing but make that get worse. I mean, one of the things that I find very odd is how they spend all of their time trying to portray themselves as for the little guy. And I would argue that the little guy is the one that's hurt the most by big government, because the little guy is the guy who can't afford big government. The rich guys can afford big government. If you're a billionaire, you don't much care what the tax rate is, and you don't much care what's going on, because you know what? You're going to live in a really big house, go on great vacations, your future is set, life is easy, no problems. The government can't mess you up too much. The people who need the most opportunity, the most freedom, the most ability to change their life and to change its direction and not have government create obstacles for them are, quite frankly, the people who are not rich. And that's what our founders created. And that's amazing about our founders, because most of our founders actually were well-to-do. And they did not create a society designed to preserve their wealth. They created a society designed to allow everybody to be wealthy. And that's why you have a country where, at least up until the last 8 years, we were just really rolling along, and you had this surprisingly large middle class, and that by standards compared to other countries, we were wealthy. People, owned homes, and they weren't. Not everybody lived in a small flat somewhere, or like in many of your former Soviet bloc countries, where a couple families share a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in essentially a dormitory style arrangement for the family. We don't have that here.
No, we don't.
And but you have a few more terms of Barack Obama, or if Cory Booker were to get elected, oh yeah, you'll have a lot more of that. After all, what was Barack Obama's pro-family stance? I'll tell you that it was. He got college-age kids living back in their parents' basement. He was reuniting children, adult children, with their parents.
Yeah,
that was
he
what he did to promote family values.
Very good at that. Hey, George, wanted to change subjects for a minute because, you and I talk about global warming, climate change, whatever lie they're putting out. But this caught my eye the other day, and I wanted to bring it up to you. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said Monday that it would review a whistleblower's allegations that the agency manipulated climate data in order to eliminate the global warming pause for political reasons. The whistleblower, John Bates, who retired in December as principal scientist of the National Climate Data Center, rocked the climate change debate Sunday with his claim that a top NOAA climate scientist selectively used data to discredit the global warming hiatus in a key 2015 study. George, we've been saying all along they're cooking the books. They're cooking the books, George.
Absolutely. Where I learned this is I was talking to 2 scientists that work for NASA. And one's John Christie and one's a guy named Roy Spencer. And I think it's Roy that continues to have an affiliation with the University of Alabama at Huntsville. At any rate, these guys are real scientists, and their attitude is they don't care about the politics of the issue. Their attitude is, if there's climate change, I'll say there's climate change, because I'm just going to tell you what it is. If the water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, I'll tell you that. If it changes and starts boiling at 101 Celsius, I'll tell you that. I don't really care what the answer is, as long as I know, what the facts are. And so they weren't interested in the politics side of it, but they basically said, we've done satellite data, we've done weather balloon data, and none of that substantiates any of the data these other people are coming up with. It all runs contrary to what they're saying. And he says, and I find that troubling, because they should, and they used to line up. In other words, it didn't matter if you used satellite data to come up with your temperatures, because it should be more accurate, because you can take temperatures everywhere. You could literally take, you could take temperatures, measure them every square foot of the country instead of just at airports, for example. But their point was, we've done satellite data, we've done weather balloon data to substantiate that, and those two things line up perfectly. No distinction between those. There's no statistically difference between them. But there is a huge difference between those and the data these other people put out. And so that tells us there's something wrong with their data set. That's all they couldn't get into. I said, well, do you think they're cooking the books? And the guy says, I can't. That's getting into motives. I don't know. All I know is their data sets don't match the other data sets, and they should. There's no reason why these data sets should look radically different, but they do consistently. They're always different, and they get different by different amounts, different years. It's inconsistent. They don't do the same things to the numbers every year. And so here we now have evidence from the inside that what they told me back in 1998 or 1999, it's when I first started out at Frontiers of Freedom as its president. That's what they, So this is the crazy thing. And yet you and I have to bring this up. I don't think most of our listeners read this, and it's certainly not being talked about 24/7. But every time we get some warm weather, like yesterday or the day before, it is global warming. Now today it's cold and snowy on the East Coast, and of course now they're being quiet about global warming. But the next warm day we have, I think it's scheduled for Sunday, it will be global warming again. But when the guy comes out and he's a whistleblower and says they're cooking the books, radio silence from ABC, NBC for the mainstream media. I know we got to go to the break, so I'll go get quiet. But this is important, and it shows how science is being stolen from us.
Well, apparently one of the things they were doing, George, is they were ignoring water temperature samples from buoys, from fixed buoys in the oceans, and they were giving those that data zero credit. And they were taking the data that was being gathered by humans on ships, and they were taking that as the gospel. Now, my feeling is, who were these people that were gathering the test data on the ships? I'd rather trust a buoy that is nonpartisan than somebody who works for NOAA, somebody who works for the government, somebody who worked in the Obama administration to give me data. I'll trust the buoy. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Don't go away. On the other side, we'll be speaking with media critic James Person. Be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Greetings, folks, and welcome back. This is George Landreth. And, of course, Rick Trader, the original Conservative Commando. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos. And I want to remind you that if you'd like to listen to a rebroadcast of today's show, you can always do that. All you need to do is check out our websites, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Excuse me, ccrsshow.com. You also at 11 a.m. can log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, and you at 11 p.m. can log on to highplainstalkradio.com, and you can always listen to the show with your phone, and this number, 832-999-1199. We have with us our guest. We talked earlier that this is going to be a great segment. We've got with us James Herson. He is a New York Times best-selling author. He's a commentator. He's a media analyst. He's also a law professor, and as I said, you can't hold that against him. I am too. Not all lawyers are bad. But he's got a real expertise in the entertainment industry, media psychology, cultural events, and as a result of that, he often appears on shows like on Fox and Friends, their morning show, The O'Reilly Factor, Neil Cavuto's show. He occasionally appears also on Chris Matthews' Hardball. You name it, even over on the BBC, he's been there. He also does a lot of radio, so you will have heard him on virtually every conservative radio station or radio talk show. And, of course, you've heard him here at Conservative Commandos. He's a pundit for Newsmax.com, and he's the author of a popular weekly column, The Left Coast Report. So, James, welcome back to Conservative Commandos.
Great to be with you. How are you?
I'm doing great, and we're glad you're here. We talked when we were teasing you, not teasing you as in tormenting you, but teasing your appearance on the show. We talked about Hollywood and how in the election they tried to be very active in the election, and that they had almost no impact on the election, at least not discernible that we could tell. But they are having an impact. Maybe you can talk a little about what impact they're having or who they're affecting, if I can say it that way.
Well, look, whether they like it or not, and whether the industry likes it or not, when people who are famous and are associated with the entertainment business go out and make statements that are controversial, it affects the Hollywood brand. And it's that Hollywood brand that, has a secondary meaning, just like any other brand. Like Apple has a secondary meaning that's apart from the fruit that deals with quality technology. And Hollywood has, in the past, had a secondary meaning involving quality entertainment, excellence in communication. And that brand is being affected clearly by statements of celebrities. And of late, what the celebrities have been doing is advocating violence, which is part of what the left has found themselves doing. For example, when you had the so-called protests in Berkeley, California, where buildings were burned, windows were broken, a young girl was pepper sprayed, people were beaten by individuals wearing masks, dressed up like ninjas. Here's an example of a Hollywood response. Deborah Messing, the actress, uses her social media.
James, it seems like we may have lost you, James. Are you there? We may have to try to reconnect with James. It sounds like he may have lost his signal. And so what we'll do is we'll go to a break real quickly, and then we will come back after that. So what we'll do, I'll just remind folks that there's a million ways you can hear us at Conservative Commandos. Of course, we're WNJC 1360. That's our flagship station in Philadelphia. But most of our listeners are all over the world because conservatives are not only in the Philadelphia area. So you're probably tuning in on American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM/FM 24/7, or even on WNJC1360.com radio on the internet. We will be right back, and we will bring back with us James Herson.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We the people never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, "All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent." Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Greetings, we're back, and we've got James Herson back on the line. We've solved... I think his cell dropped on us, but we've got him back. And I just want to remind folks, you can always catch a rebroadcast of our show. Just check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, ccrsshow.com. Also, Leading Edge Radio Network. You can check that at 8 a.m. in the morning and 11 p.m. You can log on to highplainstalkradio.com. And, of course, you can always listen to us on a radio, without a radio, without your computer, just your phone. Dial this number, 832-999-1199. We, of course, have been talking with James Herson, and we got disconnected, but we're glad to have him back on the line. Just to refresh your memory, folks, he was telling us a little bit about how Hollywood has been tarnishing its own brand. So with that, I'll let you, James, pick up where you were.
Well, I'm not sure exactly where it got cut off, but the idea is that Hollywood has this secondary meaning associated with it, and America, what is referred to by the left as flyover country, the people that are out there working for a living and have values that are perhaps antithetical to the far left values of Hollywood are the customers of the entertainment business. And so when these individuals who are famous, whether they're musicians or actors or writers or filmmakers, say things that are outrageous, it harms the business. And the people, I work in the business, and there are lots of executives who are cringing when they hear it. I gave the example of after the Berkeley so-called protests, which were really criminal riots, where buildings were burned, windows were broken, and people were assaulted. Deborah Messing used her social media to say resistance works. And resistance is this word that's being used by the left, and some of the brainless people in Hollywood have incorporated it. Judd Apatow, the filmmaker, said this is only the beginning. Sarah Silverman called for a military coup. I mean, it's amazing to me. Robert De Niro goes on The View, says he wants to punch the President of the United States in the face. It's violent, and it's condoning violence. And by the way, legally speaking, there are limits to free speech. One of the limits is incitement, trying to advocate for criminal behavior that's imminent. And when Madonna said that she was thinking about blowing up the White House, she bordered on incitement and also bordered on other violations that invoked a Secret Service investigation. We have a rapper named Big Sean who in a radio station engaged in a spontaneous rap where he rapped about murdering the president. This is not political speech, debate, intellectual interaction. This is advocating criminal violence, and we see more and more of it coming from the extreme left. The effect of it is you can see it on social media anecdotally. I experience it more than I ever have in my life. People saying, I'm no longer going to watch that show. I'm not going to attend that movie. I'm turning things off. I'm looking for an alternative form of entertainment for myself and my family. And an industry like Hollywood that's had declining box offices for over a decade, which has had declining profits, and really is highly inefficient. They should be very concerned about these people spouting off, and there's no end to it. I mean, there's a new outrageous statement, it seems, every day.
Well, one of the things I thought was interesting is we noticed that the NFL was having some drop-off in its viewership, and I'm wondering if there aren't some corollaries there.
Absolutely, a direct parallel. Colin Kaepernick and his antics insulting basically football fans all over caused a drop in the ratings of the NFL. Even though the Super Bowl was an incredible Super Bowl, its ratings were down. Roger Goodell was booed by the crowd, the commissioner of football. I mean,
yeah, as he should be, quite frankly, and not just over the Colin Kaepernick thing. I mean, just a long litany of things, and I'm not even referring to the way he's handled some of the conflicts or controversies of the Patriots. Just in general, he has proven to be essentially. I don't know if you remember the cap penalties he put on two teams in the NFL who during an uncapped year supposedly didn't follow a gentleman's agreement, which is illegal. It's called collusion. It's just garbage like that. I mean, just absolutely, criminal stuff.
Well, I can't imagine that the NFL owners aren't going to can them. But you were right to draw that parallel, and I think it's just indicative of what the United States, the majority of Americans have experienced over the last, say, year and a half, where they've had the mainstream media lie to them on a daily basis. So I think what's happened is people have become inured to it, and it doesn't work. And the same thing with Hollywood. Hollywood's had the opposite effect. they have these PSAs that are coming out on a regular basis. After the election, they couldn't accept the results, so they tried to influence the members of the Electoral College. They had fundraising PSAs for the recount of Jill Stein. They went on to try to boycott the inauguration, and it just goes on and on. Just yesterday, one of the major agencies in Hollywood announced that they're not going to have what they normally have is an Oscar party. An Oscar party with lots of swag and fancy food and booze. And instead, they're going to have a refugee party. And I'm sure there's folks in Hollywood that are saying, I'd rather have the Oscar party, really. But they're making another anti-Trump statement against the absolutely reasonable and perfectly legal executive order for a temporary moratorium on travel from countries that were deemed by the Obama administration to be hotbeds of terrorism. So Hollywood is...
And that would be true if the people in that country are Jewish or Christian or Muslim.
Well, that's right. I mean, it would be true no matter what. And they weren't picked because they were Muslim. They were picked because they harbor terrorists.
Right.
And that's it. There's a statute that's on the books that gives the president absolute authority in this area of ingress and egress of the country, of people with visas, people who are immigrants. And that statute was never brought up in the ranting and raving opinions of the judge in Washington State who came up with this order. But of course, that judge who wears green bow ties and praises Black Lives Matter has become a hero among the Hollywood elite on the left, just like Elizabeth Warren, a.k.a. Pocahontas, has become a hero, especially in recent days.
Right, Pocahontas, she's lots of fun. One of the things I have to say, though, one of the reasons why I have to say I personally think that if for no other reason than this, Donald Trump is a great uniter. He's bringing the disparate parts of America together. Because I don't know if I have ever agreed with Piers Morgan on anything before. And Piers Morgan is a hoity-toity, uber leftist, Brit who likes to talk down to everybody because he thinks he's smarter than we are, when I don't actually think his intellect is particularly impressive. But he nailed this one. And so he's, Piers Morgan has George Landreth and Piers Morgan agreeing for the first time ever. I mean, Donald Trump has us agreeing for the first time ever. This is what Piers Morgan said, and I thought to myself, bingo, way to go. He's, of course, Piers Morgan is correct less frequently than Broken Clock is, but nonetheless, I got to give credit where credit is due. This is what he said. He's referring to Meryl Streep, who went on this, delivered a diatribe, as you described it, against at the Golden Globe Awards, and painted herself and all of her fellow people in Hollywood as victims. And so he basically turns around and says, Meryl Streep began her laceration of President Trump by saying that Hollywood, foreigners, and the press are the most vilified segments of American society today, at which point the cameras panned out to hundreds of the richest, most privileged people in American society in their $10,000 tuxedos and $20,000 designer dresses, loudly cheering this acknowledgement of their dreadful victimhood. And I thought to myself, he finally... a man who's in his 50s or 60s said something I could stand up and cheer.
Yeah, he's been making the rounds, actually sounding rather rational. But what you said about Donald Trump being a uniter of certain elements, Donald Trump has realigned the politics of America totally. And so somebody like Piers Morgan, who happens to be friends with Trump and knows him quite well because he was on his show, understands that the crazy characterizations of Trump in the mainstream media are false, and that what Trump is a hardworking, legitimate, skilled businessman with the best interests of America at heart. And what Trump has done is stolen a large chunk of the Democratic base, the so-called blue line, the working people of Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and other states. And the fact is that that's part of the reason we're seeing this shrillness, this panicky hysteria, because I think the people like George Soros know that his power and the power of the left and their agenda is disappearing into the night. As Rahm Emanuel says, they're going to be out of power for a very long time if Trump is successful. And this flailing that they're doing doesn't stop him at all, not one bit. And so, it's just like the cabinet picks. Each and every cabinet pick is the press does their Oppo research. They try to show them as, demonize them in essence, and they all end up getting confirmed, partially because of the Harry Reid rule, and partially because someone is inhabiting Mitch McConnell's body since the Trump election, some new action hero who is this, because Mitch McConnell looks down in his shoes and all of a sudden he has a pair. It's amazing.
Right. I would agree. He's done much better job the last month than he did the previous several years. So I couldn't possibly disagree with that. We're about out of time, so I just want to give you a chance to tell us how people can follow what you're doing. Give us your email, your Twitter, and then we've got to go to a hard commercial break. So we've got about 30 seconds to tell us how to follow your good work.
I write for Newsmax.com, and they can go to my website, James Hirsen, HIRSEN.com. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. You can look me up. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely, James. We're really glad to have you. This has been James Hirsen. You can follow him. He's got a great Left Coast report that he writes. You got to follow him. I think it's so important that we understand what our popular media culture does to our politics. And it's been great to have him on the show. I want to let our listeners know that we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios. That is WNJC 1360, which is our flagship station in Philadelphia. But I know many of you are listening around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM/FM 24/7. We are everywhere, as Rick likes to say. We will be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Greetings, folks. We are back as promised, and we've got our special guest. We've got Jennifer Burke on the line. But before we get to her and before I introduce her, I want to make sure everyone knows that you can always hear a rebroadcast of today's show. I know that Jennifer will say a lot of things that you will say, I got to hear that again. So this is how you do it. Check out our websites, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrsshow.com. You can always also log in to Leading Edge Radio Network and highplainstalkradio.com. And if you've got a phone and this phone number, you can always listen in as well, 832-999-1199. Now, as we mentioned earlier, we've got Jennifer Burke with us. She's a co-founder and the editor-in-chief of the Politistick. This is a website it's a conservative website that it quickly grew to become one of the top 15 conservative sites in the country. She attended the first modern-day Tea Party rally, and from there she emerged as a popular and powerful speaker and a writer within the movement. She graduated from Texas A&M. She's a certified teacher with 12 years' experience in the classroom, proving that not all teachers are the type that we saw last week opposing Betsy DeVos, for example. Just like I'm an attorney, not all attorneys are bad either. Jennifer also was selected as a member of the second graduating class of the Jennifer Dunn Leadership Institute, and that's a program that identifies future conservative leaders. Welcome back, Jennifer, to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks for having me on again today.
Absolutely. Always glad to have you on. We have seen recently some interesting things, some kind of theatrics. Historically, there's something called comity. I don't mean comedy, it's comity, this idea of a certain level of professional courtesy in the Senate. And the idea is that if you're going to have a debate and deal with ideas, it made sense not to do a lot of name-calling and those sorts of things. So historically, when a member of the Senate has been nominated for a position, no member of the Senate, they may vote against them in their confirmation, but they didn't speak out against them or testify against them. They just voted no and explained why they were going to vote no, perhaps on the floor, but they didn't show up at the hearing to badmouth them. That is a tradition that was, of course, broken recently by the senator from New Jersey. Tell us a little about what that is all about. What's up there? Was it Jeff Sessions really just that bad? He was just so awful that Cory Booker wanted to follow with tradition, but just couldn't bring it himself to do it.
Cory Booker is just a political opportunist. Everyone knows he and probably lots of people in the Democratic Party are hoping he'll be the next Barack Obama, hoping that he'll be able to get people to rally behind him. The one thing that Hillary Clinton could not do was get urban areas and black people to get out and vote for her, which was in large part why she lost, in addition to losing the Rust Belt and ignoring the working class man, basically all those people that work at factories or have seen their factories closed because she was too busy partying with the elite Hollywood people. But Cory Booker testified against Jeff Sessions after he had actually praised Jeff Sessions and his work in civil rights, had spoken about him on the on the floor of the Senate, and Jeff Sessions is pictured many times with other people from the Congressional Black Caucus doing various marches and such. So when Cory Booker testified against Jeff Sessions, it didn't go well, for one. Sheriff David Clark said he was like a poor man's Obama because he just couldn't deliver the lines. He was obviously reading. He was trying to be impassioned. It didn't work. And then after his testifying against him, you had three or four different black men who had worked with Jeff Sessions in some capacity, whether in the Attorney General's office or as a member of law enforcement in Alabama, that testified as to his character, his integrity, and him not being a racist. But, of course, that hasn't stopped the left from continuing to try to push that narrative because, as Ted Cruz said the other day, and as I have said for years, that's what the left does when they try to shut someone down.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting is this is a fellow who's been a U.S. attorney. He's prosecuted the Klan. He has prosecuted voter fraud and attempts to stop voters from getting to the polls, those sorts of things. But being, the charge of racism is a serious charge. It's, particularly in today's world, it's probably the worst thing you could be. So it's kind of like they're saying you're a mass murderer, when they level it. But it would seem to me that if you're going to make that statement, you got to have the goods. Like if I were to accuse somebody of a crime, someone would ask me to produce the evidence that had occurred, that they were in fact a convicted felon, and not just make things up. For example, I am looking at a picture right now of a NAACP award that was given to Senator Jeff Sessions in 2009. So unless it's photoshopped, but this is the sort of thing they do. They give out awards, and then, when you're promoted to something or being, if it suits their purposes, they call you names. I guess what I'm saying is, it used to be I thought that honesty required you. I mean, if somebody is a racist, I want to know it. If it were true that Jeff Sessions is a racist, I think that's important. We should know that. But I guess what I'm saying is I find the fact that the charge itself is made simply for the impact it might have, irrespective of its truthfulness. That's despicable. And I see this more and more now. It basically, anybody who's I've taught my children this. I said, what is a racist in modern society today? And all my kids know the answer. It's a conservative who's winning an argument with a liberal. And that's what it's come to. I hear this used all the time. And I guess, am I being too cynical, or is this just kind of where we're headed?
No, that's where we are right now. I mean, the charge of Jeff Sessions being a racist stems from, it's basically hearsay. What one guy back in 1986, I think it was, claimed that Jeff Sessions said. There was no record of it, no witness. It was complete and total hearsay. And the Democrats are saying, the fact that he took his name out of consideration after that is proof positive, that he is. No, it's not. Back then, the world was different. You didn't have social media. You didn't have.
You had 3 networks, so if they accused him of that, you couldn't fight back. There was no way to really combat that lie that was just told over and over and over again. And I think the fact that he desegregated schools in Alabama, the fact that he sought and got the death penalty for a KKK leader who killed a black teen, and then got a $7 million settlement for the family that basically wiped the Klan out in Alabama, and made sure that the death sentence was in fact applied, should speak volumes as to who Jeff Sessions is, as well as the black men who worked side by side with him for decades, should say a lot. But the term racism has been so diluted and over the past few years, especially because, like you said, conservatives are just called racist. If you're losing an argument or if you want to discredit them. I don't know if you saw Tim Scott reading some of the hate tweets and mail. Oh yeah, that was incendiary. I thought it was despicable. Jennifer, we've got to go to a break real quick. Can we continue this conversation on the other side of the break? Excellent, because we want to continue this conversation. And folks, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios. WNJC 1360, which is our flagship station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But for those of you not in Philadelphia, you're listening on the internet all over America and the world at American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7, which is why Rick always says we are everywhere, because we are. We'll be right back.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamb-Menier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Menier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We the people never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commando radio show. This is George Landreth and Rick Trader. And, of course, if you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's shows, you want to make sure you get a chance to listen to anything that was said today again, or let your friends in on what that you've learned today from some of our great guests like Jennifer Burke, then you can check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, ccrsshow.com. And, of course, you can always check on into Leading Edge Radio Network and highplainstalkradio.com. And with this number, 832-999-1199, and your phone, you don't even need a radio or your computer. You can always hear us because we are everywhere. We've been talking with Jennifer Burke, and we're going to get back to that conversation, but I just want to remind you who she is. She's the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Politistic. You go there, politistic.com. It is quickly became one of the top 15 conservative sites in the country. She, of course, was there at the very beginning of the Tea Party movement and has been a leader in that movement. She is also an educator, and she is somebody who has been speaking out on these sorts of issues, and she's been pointing out what's going on in these confirmation hearings and some of the distortions and some of the dishonest things have been said about, for example, Jeff Sessions, and just kind of the hypocrisy and the opportunism, if you will, of some of the people who have played both sides of the fence. On the one hand, they've complimented him, they've said great things about him, and then they turn around later and say he's an unfit racist and can't possibly be trusted with power. She's been speaking eloquently and powerfully on that. So, Jennifer, welcome back. And I just want to ask you to pick up where we left off. We had been talking a little bit about some of the things that had happened in Jeff Sessions' confirmation hearings. Did he do anything like this with the DeVos Secretary of Education, or did he play that one straighter?
No, he did. Let me add in this point just about racism real quick. Tim Scott, let me go back to that. black man was accused of being a racist against black people. And Susana Martinez, the mayor of, not the mayor, the governor of New Mexico, was accused by a white Democrat, former mayor of Santa Fe, of being a racist against Hispanic people. That shows you exactly how warped and distorted racism has become. But Cory Booker, the reason I opened up saying he's a political opportunist is because after Betsy DeVos was confirmed, tie-breaking vote by Vice President Mike Pence, he did this video that he released again, trying to position himself, as the 2020 presidential candidate, talking about, we will prevail. We have to look out for the children, and because the left is trying to make it out that Betsy DeVos is the worst thing that could happen to kids, when in actuality she's the worst thing that could happen to teachers' unions, part of the bread and butter of the Democrat Party. But it turns out that Cory Booker actually served on a board of directors with Betsy DeVos for charter schools. He at one point in time was a school choice advocate until he realized that he could get more political capital if he wasn't. And he actually spoke at a summit that her organization, she was a big school choice advocate, that her organization did, in which he sang her praises and described her organization as incredible. But now we're supposed to believe that he is extremely anti-Betsy DeVos, and that, this is not all just being done just to gain some political points with the radical left that's been revealing themselves to be driving the Democrat Party.
Wow. Talk about talking out of both sides of your mouth. That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah, that is something else. One of the things, I kind of don't, I don't like people being accused of being a racist when it's a lie, but I also don't like the charge being thrown around so flippantly, because it devalues it at some point. At some point, we stop taking it seriously. And I actually think racism is a big deal. And we ought to have social consequences for racists. But the problem is that if you call everyone a racist, pretty soon everyone just says, yeah, whatever. It's like the little boy cries wolf. And if you cry wolf all the time, when the wolf actually shows up, nobody cares. And that's the problem I see with this, is that not only are they maligning good people, but they are making it so that racists in the future will be able to fly under the radar screen, because they will have devalued the charge, if you will.
Well, it's already devalued, not only by saying things like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, two sitting senators of Cuban descent, whose parents, at least one came from Cuba, are anti-immigrant and anti-Hispanic, and like I just said about Scott and Martinez, but also the notion that, and this was pushed by Obama's activist attorney general, that black people can't commit hate crimes against white people because white people have not been historically oppressed. That's a notion that Eric Holder put forth. So when we saw the knockout game being played, quote unquote, of white people, including the elderly and pregnant women, being basically cold clocked and rendered unconscious just as they're walking down the street doing absolutely nothing, Obama never said anything about it. Eric Holder never jumped in and talked about hate crimes or anything. The only time there was a hate crime prosecution for it was when a white team so happened to do that to a black man. Then it was outrage across America, and there was this hate crime thing, even though it had been happening for a while there on an almost daily basis. But what I said to people, I spoke with someone who was writing a thesis at Columbia University, and I told them the bigger issue today, I think, is bigotry. Because you can claim racism and you can, desire quotas when it comes to, ethnicity or gender or whatever. On like the New York Times were complaining about Trump's cabinet or whatever, or news organizations can say, oh, we're going to diversify. But the one type of diversity that's not there is diversity of thought, and that's the one type of diversity that the left actually doesn't want. They don't want, if the New York Times were to hire someone like me who's a black conservative, they wouldn't want that. I would then be criticized.
You are not the diversity you are definitely not the diversity they're looking for.
No, not at all.
No, you're right about that. it's interesting. We're always told that physical appearance is just skin deep or whatever, and your thoughts are more important. And yet that's what they don't want. They do not want that diversity. No. They just want the skin deep stuff, crazy stuff. We're going to have to go, but I want you to tell folks how they can follow you. Tell us about your website real quick. We've got like 30 seconds or less. Twitter, any way that they can follow and make sure they know what Jennifer's thinking about and writing about.
Yeah, you can find us online at politistic.com, POLITI-stick.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/politistic, POLITI-stick, and on Twitter, we're The Politistic, so the POLITI stick.
And that's stick as in like, please don't hit me with a stick.
Right, STICK.
Right, Politistic. Excellent. Thanks so much, Jennifer. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me on again. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Well, we're going to wrap up now, but I wanted to see if you had any closing thoughts.
Yeah, a couple of great interviews there, George. I appreciate you carrying the water today as I recuperate and get my voice back. But one of the things that I'm most proud of about the show is the quality of guests who choose to spend a little bit of time with us. It's great.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the fact that when we finish up a show, I feel like our listeners have had a chance to be a better informed conservative and hopefully move forward and fight for liberty and freedom in a more substantive way.
Yeah. I also want to ask our listeners to follow us on Twitter. It's Conservative Commando, CCR Show. You can find us on Twitter. Also, please join our Conservative Commandos radio show Facebook group page on Facebook, obviously. We put a lot of information up there about this show and all the shows that are part of the Conservative Commandos network, and you can find that on Twitter at Conservative Commandos Radio Show. So please check us out. And George, I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank Mr. John Forsythe Jr. for doing a great job working the boards. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
1360 AM. WNJC. Washington Township, Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.